Welcome to this news briefing from the 249th meeting and exposition of the American Chemical Society here in Denver, Colorado. My name is Noel Waghorn. We're joined today by Dr. Emmanuel Ohene Afoakwa from the University of Ghana, who's working on a way to make chocolate more nutritious and sweeter. So that sounds good. Tell me about it.
Thank you very much, Noel. I am working on cocoa, and the work is mainly on cocoa processing. That's the primary processing of cocoa bean, and then how does that translate onto the quality of chocolate. Chocolate quality in terms of the fermentative quality of the bean, as well as the nutritional and then the health benefits of the product. What our work has concentrated on is known as pulp preconditioning treatment. The cocoa bean is from the cocoa pod. So when the pod is harvested, what the farmers usually do is that they open the pod and start the fermentation process. The fermentation process is very crucial to the flavor quality and also the brown color that we observe from what we consume during chocolate production. So if the fermentation is not done well, you don't get the high intense chocolate flavor, and then you also don't get the brown color of the chocolate product. What we have observed is that when the pods are harvested and the pods are opened immediately, the flavor quality is reduced, and also you also don't get very high retention of the polyphenols in the cocoa. So our work has been concentrating on the pulp preconditioning by pod storage. So instead of opening the pods immediately after harvesting to ferment, you store the pods for a period of time for about 5 days. What happens is that during the process, the pulp, that is the whitish substance, mucilaginous substance that is sweet surrounding the beans, actually release its fluids and enter the integrity of the bean. So the bean quality, even prior to the fermentation, is increased by virtue of the concentration of flavor precursors. The flavor precursors are largely the sugars and the protein, which are further broken down into amino acids and peptides during the fermentation process. So the concentration is increased, and then during the fermentation, the pot-stored beans are able to retain more of the polyphenols. So you are able to get the product containing very high concentrations of the flavor precursors and the polyphenolic content. So after the fermentation process, you are supposed to get very good quality product, and also because the polyphenols retention is also really high, you are also going to get a product with very high quantity of polyphenols, which contain very high levels or concentrations of the antioxidants that give the health benefits of cocoa and chocolate products.
Very good. So let me ask, where does the sweetness come in?
The sweetness is not really sweetness, but is the flavor. The flavor quality is very prime. What happens is that cocoa bean coming from West Africa, especially Ghana, do have very high intense cocoa flavors. And this is very much desirable because on the international market, what happens is that the cocoa bean from Ghana is mixed with the beans from other West African countries because the flavor volatiles are as much reduced as compared to the beans coming from Ghana. The reason is that Ghana government, from our work, has actually made it a policy that all farmers are supposed to store their pods for 5 days prior to fermentation. So we are getting very high quality beans with high intense flavors. So that's not just the taste of the bean, but then the flavor quality becomes very, very high. And that is where the advantage is from.
Is there an effort to make this storage process universal across West African cocoa producers?
Yes. At the moment, we have some small funding from the government of Belgium, and we are doing a project across the West African belt, looking at how we can sustain the high-quality cocoa bean production across West Africa. But what we realized is that the bean from Ghana, we are studying the factors that are giving us very high advantage on the international market, and then also try to train the farmers across the other West African states to also enhance the quality of the beans that they also produce.
Are there questions from the audience? Yes, in the back. So, go to Doug first, sorry. Beat you to it.
Doug Dollamore, Science Elements Podcast. Doctor, my question is about the roasting changes that you made, and I'm wondering how much of an effect did that have on the antioxidants in comparison to the preconditioning?
With regard to the roasting,
the roasting, yeah.
Yes.
You roasted at different temperature.
Yes, yeah. We also have realized that when the pod is preconditioned, if you have taken the beans through this process, because already you have very high retention of the antioxidants, the polyphenols present in the bean. When the traditional roasting process is carried out using higher temperatures of, let's say, above 120 degrees Celsius for as long as 20 minutes, you lose some of the flavors because some of them are very volatile, and therefore you don't get as intense as the flavor quality as desirable that you want. So what happens is that our process, in our research, we've been able to optimize the roasting process that can also retain the antioxidants present in the bean, and then realize that if you use a slow roasting process, instead of roasting it at a higher 120, 125, you can roast it around 115, 117 degrees Celsius for as long as 45 minutes. And you are able to retain more of the polyphenols and the antioxidants that you also want in the bean.
Is there any kind of cost saving associated with using the lower roasting temperature as well?
Yes, yeah, because it's energy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you are roasting at a higher temperature, that will, it costs you more. And therefore, if you are roasting at a relatively lower or reduced temperature, you also save on cost. Yeah, as far as energy is concerned.
Yeah, so we have an online question from Maren Shapiro, NBC News. So she's wondering, how does this differ from already existing methods of preserving polyphenols in chocolate, i.e. Cocoa Via by Mars? So how is your stuff different from what they're already doing?
Yes, originally, the cocoa bean, the unfermented bean contains very high concentration of polyphenols. It has between 160 and 180 gram per kg polyphenols in the bean. However, the higher the concentration of the polyphenol in the bean, the more astringent and bitter it is. Because some industries have tried, we've had a couple of them in Ghana, tried to ask farmers not to ferment their beans so that they can get very high polyphenol beans. Yes, you can get a high polyphenol beans, but when you use them for chocolate manufacture, nobody will consume them because they are very bitter, and therefore they become unacceptable. The fermentation process actually reduces the polyphenol content and also the acidity, and that has a reduction effect on the astringency and the bitterness. However, if you just allow the natural spontaneous fermentation to go on, you reduce the polyphenols to, very low levels. You can lose as much as 70% of it. So you bring it down. So it contains some concentration of polyphenols, all right, but the levels are relatively low. If you use our process, you'll still lose some, but you are able to retain about 25% more, which is remarkably high.
Okay. Yeah, and she's also asking, do they expect this increase in antioxidants to have an impact on health?
Yes, Yes. We've reported over and over again. I think I've written a lot of articles on it over the years, and we've had other researchers also writing in this area extensively that polyphenol has or exerts a positive effect on human health. If you eat foods containing very high concentrations of polyphenols like cocoa and its products like chocolate, the polyphenols contains the antioxidants, which we all know are known as the radical scavengers. So they fight against disease-causing agents. So diseases like diabetes, cancer, and cardiovascular diseases. Even in recent times, we found that it contains very high, aphrodisiac properties, and therefore they are very, very helpful for human health.
That's also good for your life.
Yes.
Yeah. Another question, is there, before people sort of run out and just buy any kind of chocolate and start gobbling it and saying it's good for their health, is there a particular type of cocoa to look for, like a high cocoa percentage, or what should people be looking for to get the most polyphenol?
Yeah. That is very important, and thank you for that question. You don't just buy chocolate and consume it because it is known as that chocolate consumption promotes human health. No. There are actually 3 types of chocolates that is being sold on the market that we produce at the industry. There's white chocolate, there's milk chocolate, and there's dark chocolate. Basically, the difference among these 3 are the concentrations of cocoa in them. The white chocolate, it is called chocolate by virtue of the fact that it contains cocoa fat. Other than that, because it doesn't contain any cocoa solids at all, it shouldn't actually be called chocolate, but because cocoa butter is used and is stole from cocoa, that's a fat. That is why. But health-wise, we don't really advise consumers to consume high concentrations of the white chocolate, because the health benefit is derived from the concentration of the cocoa mass, the cocoa solids itself. The milk chocolate contains relatively lower levels of cocoa solids relative to the dark chocolate. The dark chocolate does not contain milk solids at all, and therefore it contains very high concentrations of the cocoa. And therefore we rather advise consumers that if you are consuming the product for the health benefit of it, then you better go in for the dark chocolate, because that is where you get higher concentrations of the polyphenols and the antioxidants that you can, can help you achieve the health effects.
Sure. Was there a question over here? Did you have a question? Sorry, just 1 second. We'll grab you the microphone.
Rebecca Traeger, Chemistry World. I was just wondering if you could tell a little bit more about the funding from the Belgian government.
Yes. When I started work in 2010, I was using my own funds. As a matter of fact, I funded the work myself for some time now. But in 2013, we got some funds from the VLEO project that is funded by the Belgium government. And we have received about 300,000 euros from that for that project, and that is what we are doing now. That's the 300,000.
What's the name of the project?
Euro. The name of the project is VLIR, VLIR, Team, TEAM, Cocoa Project. Yeah.
Bella?
Bela Wustelijk, ACS News Service. How well controlled is the fermentation process as to microorganism or temperature, or, well, the length is obviously being controlled, but I've never heard anything about the temperature conditions or even selected microorganisms for the fermentation. They all could be very important to developing newer and greater flavors.
Yeah. Thank you very much. The fermentation process is very crucial, as I said, to the quality, that's the color and then the flavor. During the fermentation, there's a lot of chemistry and a lot of chemical reactions going on, a lot of microbiological reactions also going on there. There are two phases involved in the fermentation process. We have the first phase known as the anaerobic condensation phase. When you are using, depending on the fermentation method that you are using, so typically in Ghana, we use what is known as a heap fermentation process, where the beans are heaped, right? And then they are covered with plantain or banana leaves. And they are made airtight to ensure that there is no air entering the bean. Of course, because of the pulp will even not allow any air into the bean because it covers, the bean, and is a liquid, so it doesn't allow air. So when the heap is formed, it generates heat inside, and the acids are also formed, and there is spontaneous ingestion of some form of microorganisms. We don't use starter cultures, so nobody actually ingests any type of specific microorganism into the fermenting mass. The environment around the farm area and the implements and the tools of the farmers actually help in the generation of the initial microorganisms. So you have acetic acid, bacteria that is injected inside there, and then also we have lactic acid bacteria, and different types of microorganisms come into play. But during the process, the heap becomes very much heated to as high as 50, 55 degrees Celsius. And that leads to the killing or the death of the bean. So the viability of the bean is actually killed. So the beans cannot be planted again because it leads to the death of the bean. And after the bean is killed, then what happens is that the complex chemical reaction in the bean now begin to go on. The polyphenols now begin to undergo some form of reaction, and then we have different types of the polyphenols. We have the catechins, epicatechins, anthocyanins, and then procyanidins. These types undergo some changes, and that is where there's a reduction in the polyphenolic content. Some of them are used for the formation of the color of the beans, or some of them are also used for the formation of the flavors, and that tend to reduce the acidity. The beans become very much heated, so after 48 hours, the reactions that take place within the first 48 hours is what is known as a anaerobic reaction, because there is no oxygen inside there. The farmer has to open the heap and then mix it up. So the mixing rather even distribute the heat all over the mass again, and that allows oxygen into the fermenting mass again. So it enters a different phase of the fermentation process known as the aerobic hydrolytic phase, and that also has a series of chemical reactions that also occur.
Is there a standardized sort of process to that fermentation that's universal among in Ghana producers?
At the moment, as part of the project, that is what we are doing. The farmers, some of the farmers will ferment for 5 days, some will ferment for 6 days, some will ferment for 7 days. You have some who are turning the beans just once, some are turning them twice. So there is no standardized procedure. But now we are trying to advise the farmers to do the right and by establishing quality control procedures that can help them to
Very good.
come
Is
up with a very
another
good product.
question?
Virginia Songstead from Columbus, Ohio. Since you said you are now storing the beans for about 5 days before starting the processing,
Yeah, the pods.
do you have to have special storage facilities? So that has now upped your costs, or?
No. The pods, actually, what happens is that when the farmers harvest the pods from the trees, they store the pods on the farm. So there is no need to have a special storage facility. The pods are allowed to just store on the farm for a number of days before they are opened and made to undergo the
But the
fermentation.
farmers don't have to build anything.
No, they
any
don't
new
need to
sheds
build
or
any
new-
shelves, no.
Okay, very good. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you so much. The archived version of this session will be posted live soon at bit.ly/ACS Live Denver. Please join us for our next press conference today at 1 on how understanding carbohydrates could help us fight antibiotic resistance. Thank you, and thank you, Doctor, very much.
Thank you too very much.